Watch this.
Even though I was very shy and even though I was very timid, the one thing that I had going for me, man, I was a huge dreamer. Like I remember being 12 years old and my mom would leave me by myself because, I'd be on school break, but she had to go to work. And I'd spent hours and hours just thinking about how one day I was going to make 100 grand a year. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I was like, I'm going to make 100 grand by the time I'm 21 years old. And I just became obsessed with that number. And really that number to me was a byproduct of being able to give my parents what I promised them that one day I would do. And then the other thing I had going for me at a very young age was I just always felt like God was with me. My mom would always pray over me every morning, every night. She'd always tell me I was born to do something great. And that one day I was going to be so successful that I'd be able to talk about my faith. So that just gave me the courage to take on things that really demanded more than I thought I was worth. I started working at a call center and I'm like, okay, if I'm going to make 100 grand a year by the time I'm 21 years old, then I better become the manager by the age of 18 years old. And the idea was by then I'd make 60 grand a year. And then I just started focusing on the positive stuff instead of the negative things, right? And I said, okay, the one thing I can control is my activity and my attitude. And I'm not going to pay attention to everything else that's telling me that there's no chance, right? Because the reality of it is, at the time, was that people that were ahead of me all had seniority over me. They were way smarter than me. They were going to college. They weren't timid. And I just thought to myself, okay, I don't have much talent, so I'm just going to take on the mindset of this like overachiever. And I became obsessed with doing all the boring stuff that no one else wanted to do. And part of that is just like showing up every day. I started showing up every day, no matter what. Whereas the people that were way more talented, they didn't show up every day. I started doing a lot of the role playing. They'd make us role play and practice our presentation before we get on the phones. They had these leadership development classes that we'd have to take an hour a day before we'd get on the phones. Well, the top salespeople never showed up to those things. And I just showed up to those things. And then I went to the top guy in the company. And again, all common sense stuff. I said, hey, do you mind if you record your pitch for me? And I had a Radio Shack recorder. This kind of date myself, but I bought a Radio Shack recorder and I said, can you record your pitch? And he recorded his pitch. And then I literally just studied that thing over and over. I learned it verbatim. I wrote it word for word, and I just studied it. Before I knew it, I sounded just like him. And I started to work on my tonality, the way he sounded. I started to sound. And next thing you know, my belief level went to the roof, because now I'm like, wait a minute, I sound like him. I walk like him. I talk like him. And he's the best guy. I should be the best guy. And little by little, I became the best guy at that company. And I became the manager at 18 years old. And that was a big moment in my life, because other than what I've always said, success, there's three things that you need. And other than hope and faith, you have to believe in yourself. And the reason is because you could only receive what your mind can accept. If your mind can't accept something, it's never going to get it. And you have to build your identity, because you're never going to out-earn your self-worth. So one of the ways that you build and you start believing in yourself is by putting yourself in a circumstance that demands more than you think you're worth, and then succeeding at it. But if we really analyze something, if something demands more than you think you're worth, you're probably not going to want to do it, because it's going to scare you. The fear is going to paralyze you, and you're never going to attempt it, right? But the idea is, if your faith is big enough, if your dreams are big enough, you're going to want to step into that uncertainty of something that demands more than you think you're worth. And for me, I always like talking about the call center story, because that was me stepping into the uncertainty of something that demanded more than I thought I was worth. And if I would have just focused on the negative, I would have never done it. But my dreams are big enough. My faith was big enough that I actually stepped in it and I succeeded at it. And then that's how you build your identity. And then the other part is when you start hanging around with people that are doing better than you. Like for me, I became the right hand of the VP of sales, and I started learning from him. And then that made my mind accept that I deserve more. So I always tell people that we all have this unlimited potential. Everyone